The dream is dead for the Marlins in 2023. It's now time to consider what are the key moves, the key decisions that need to be made heading into 2024. We've got a long time to consider it. We're going to start considering it all on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins podcast. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter or X at Miami Marlins _UK. If you listen to the pod, of course, hit subscribe, guys. This is your team every day, and thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. There is a YouTube channel, guys. Head on over there, hit subscribe also. If you are watching, you will see I have a guest. I have a guest on Wednesday's episode, and it's a first-time guest. Branton Griffin is in the house, part of the Battered Marlins podcast. I've been on that show a few times. It felt like it was time to start getting some Battered fans in the house. Brandon, how we doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Had some time to reflect after that Phillies series, and feeling a lot better now, and just happy to be here. I can't believe it took a whole season, but I'm here.
Way overdue. I'm with you on that. That's my fault. So I'm looking forward to this one. I absolutely love joining you guys. I love your show as well. So I felt right to start, getting some battered guys in. It felt like the right time too. Now we've been battered in this postseason, and we have really get into it. So we're gonna, you've kind of called it out. Like there's a bit of a debrief after that Phillies series, and kind of pick the bones out of that a touch. There's a few, early decisions, early considerations. Let's say we're gonna get into that most of that today. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And you can make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay, Brandon. Oh, boy. Swept by the Phils. We're actually kind of mid-series now with the Phils and Bravos, and that looks juicy as hell, to be honest with you. But, the dream is over for the Fish. Swept by the Phils. How do you assess the wild card series specifically for the Marlins?
So, the bats fell asleep, right? I mean, that's basically it, and we limped into the postseason. We got there, Band-Aids falling off and surgery scheduled and things like that. And so, I was just glad to be there. I did expect us to be a little more competitive against the Phillies. I think on Battered Marlins, I think I said we would sweep them in two because I felt good about Luzardo and Brax. And Luzardo looked good. He just, that pitch count got up on him real quick. He had that rough first and I think third inning. And then, Brax, we finally lost one when he started, and it just happened to be the postseason.
Just on Brax specifically, I thought the management of Brax was really interesting in that game. Like it felt like the hook was super quick. And then an interesting decision with Robertson as well. Like he effectively got the final out of one inning, pitched another one really well, and then went into a third inning, and then the wheels fell off in that one. Very strange management, I would say, of like I felt like Brax was pulled a touch too soon, and then Robertson was like just weirdly left out there to kind of do 2 innings worth of up downs, I guess. So weird situation I felt on that one.
Yeah, in that game too, like I kind of felt like I thought Robertson would come in and get that last out, and then they'd throw another arm in there and just kind of keep fresh guys going. Because if we don't win that game, obviously we went home, and so you have nothing to lose at that point. But Skip went a different way, and he was right with Robertson for that one inning, but I would have liked to have seen some other arms up in there to try and keep it a little closer, but
Yeah, is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to be one to question anything linked to Skip Schumacher bullpen management. It's been kamikaze all year long, and he's pressed all the right buttons. So it is what it is. David Robertson, he's not on the rundown. We're not going to talk about him a ton, but we don't expect him to be returning to the Marlins anytime soon. Would you expect?
I don't think so. I think he's probably too expensive. I know Danny would have a heart attack if he came back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think he comes back. I think there's
Yeah.
cheaper options out there. If he had come and been our lockdown closer, then maybe we'd have the conversation. But he's too expensive to bring in for a setup man or mid reliever at this point.
100%, and that's his role, right? Like he kind of landed into his rightful role, which was the role that the Mets actually acquired him to take. You know, he wasn't supposed to be the closer clearly, but ended up as the de facto closer due to Edwin Diaz. By the way, if Eli Sussman's listening, he will love that use of de facto there after I completely botched that a few days ago. So anyway, that's for you, Eli. Anyway, de facto closer, Robertson, then he comes into the Marlins. His first outing, I was absolutely blown away by. I was like, yes, here we go. And then Sean Barrett as well, the same.
Yeah.
And then, boy, oh boy, the wheels fell off that one. And he ended up in the Anthony Bass role in the 7th inning and performed well. But, there's something about Robertson that I just didn't enjoy. And it's hard as I'm not there. I don't know the guy. All I see is what I see on the mound and a few like blown save, post-game pressers. It's the toughest time ever to be interviewed, right? As a reliever, as you've just blown a couple of games. Like, of course, he's not going to be too happy, but I just had bad vibes from Robertson all along. He found his role, but I don't think his role will be anywhere near the Marlins in 24. No. You make an interesting point, though, about expensive. I must say, one of the things we're going to spend a bit of time this offseason talking about is there's a lot of arbitration guys here for the Marlins, a huge arbitration class. And there's a few, obviously, Sandy won't be playing next year, but he's paid a ton of dough. Avisail Garcia's a ton of dough as well. So a good portion of equally what they're already committed, they won't be getting much value out of in 24. But this is really intriguing for the Marlins because effectively the core is all getting more expensive, which actually shrinks maybe the overall budget. They're like, replace like a Jorge Soler or replace a Joey Wendell with an upgrade. So it's going to be really fascinating this offseason, I think, to see how they piece together the budget or what the budget looks like, I think, overall. Like, do you expect the payroll, I think, to go up this year as they head into 24?
I think it's possible. With the Marlins, you can never hold your breath when it comes to payroll going up, right? But, Sherman said he'll back a winner, and he went out. He let Kim spend some money at the deadline. I would expect that it's probably more of the same in the offseason. If we can add pieces that will get us over that hump, I think they'll absolutely do it because, we saw some great attendance numbers this year. It wasn't as good as it should have been at the end of the season, in my opinion. But overall, it was pretty good for the Marlins, and I think they can afford to spend a little bit more, but they're going to do it the Marlins way. It'll be spent smart. It won't be go out. I don't think we see another Avi Garcia deal come in. Like I think we probably see a trade for somebody who's controllable for a couple more years, maybe additions through that instead of straight up free agency.
Yeah, for sure. Avi Garcia is on the rundown. It feels like the right time to maybe segue into him. Then we'll get into the first ad of the day. Avi Garcia. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of interesting where the Mets have now got this investigation around this phantom IL situation. I do kind of wonder with Avisail Garcia, like, was there a conversation that was had basically to say, listen, Avi, I think it's the IL for you. And I do wonder if the phantom IL was heavily used there with the Marlins and Avisail Garcia. But just more generally, kind of looking ahead, few more years left on this deal, clearly at this point. How do the Marlins handle this Avi situation? Are they going to cut bait, or are they just going to persevere and see if they can get anything out of him in 24?
I think it was telling because kind of like you, I kind of suspect it was a phantom IL situation at the end of the season. And I think if you're going to try and get something out of him, like a postseason run is when you're going to do that. Like we needed any bat we could get. And I think if we thought Avi could contribute, I think he would have been on the team for that run in. But I don't know how we get rid of that salary without giving up some assets. Like it's gonna hurt to get rid of that money either way. But I think it needs to happen. I don't think he comes back for next season because he's clearly not in the plans.
That is clear. I mean, maybe this injury just kind of lingered on, but I feel like he was taking BP and all sorts like for weeks, and just no progression. It just feels like that conversation had happened, and Avi just knew this. The thing is too, right? That Skip Schumacher would have absolutely had that conversation direct with Avi. There would have been no miscommunication, no misconception. Avi would have known the situation. And from what I saw with Avi, like in the dugout and around the team, he was a hype man. He basically embraced the role of just being a hype man and, being in and around the team, which is fine. But Avi's a ball player at the end of the day. He wants to play. Yeah. And so maybe that's it. Maybe there's some sort of agreement around what this offseason could bring. And perhaps that will be, listen, Avi, likely we're going to release you. Maybe he already knows. I don't know. So
could be.
I think it's intriguing.
Yeah, it'll be a good storyline to follow this offseason for sure.
It will. To your point, though, and I think it's a great one, well made, that the Marlins really did need bats at the back end of that year. And if there was any sort of value, any contribution they felt that he could make, then we would have seen him. And the fact that we didn't likely says to me his time in Miami is likely up. Whatever that may look like, we'll see. What isn't up is your time to get involved with FanDuel. Yes, sir. How about that for a segue? That's an all-timer, kind of. Guys, October baseball is back. Of course, you know it. You've been watching your Marlins in October. And you can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. Then you can get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get the dub, predict what will happen in the next at-bat with quick bets. That sounds stunning, by the way. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, guys, welcome back. You're here with me, Peter Pratt, and Branton Griffin. And we are talking, well, the dream is over, and likely the dream is over with Avisail Garcia in Miami. However, the dream in 2024 with Sandy Alcantara is also over. This news dropped. It was not a shocker, I must say. Like, this was the inevitable. It felt like the Marlins kind of held this back until they were out the postseason. I think timing was everything on this one. But on Sandy, this impact, the impact is going to be huge. It isn't just every fifth day with Sandy. It's like every third, fourth, fifth day. Like, he impacts everything. And this is a huge blow. How are the Marlins going to patch this up? Like, how are they going to replace these innings of Sandy Alcantara's into 24? It's going to be a real tough one for Kim.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you can't replace a guy like Sandy, right? Unless you're going to go out and get like a proven ace, and the Marlins clearly aren't going to do that. But if we're looking for like silver linings here, you kind of look at guys like Luzardo, Brax, Eury, the young guys that got stretched out this year. Those three all pitched the most innings that they've pitched ever in a season. They've proven that they can hold up over a season. So I think having those three guys as the core of your rotation going into next year sets you up really well. Having Luzardo, Brax, and Eury going 1, 2, 3. Eddie Cabrera after he came back up, he was all right. So, he'll be in the mix. Trevor Rogers, you have to assume, will probably be back next year. Max Meyer, and even Patrick Monteverde. I've heard that he's probably going to get a shot in the spring to see if he can hang with the major league clubs. So there's arms there. There's no ace, in my opinion. I think, that's clearly, Eury maybe one day will be our ace, but he's not there yet. And so that's going to be huge for the Marlins. And, maybe Kim goes out and adds another arm. I don't think so, because I think we have other areas to focus on. But, there's no replacing Sandy. Even though he had a down year this year, he was still our ace. And we all love Sandy and wish him nothing but the best on his recovery. I just wish he could recover quicker.
Absolutely. You wish it was like
That's
a
it,
1 month
man.
out with Tommy John,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Or give him 3 months of no running like Jazz.
That's what we need. Exactly. Yeah, that's the brutal thing with Tommy John. It's just like it's a year done. Just evaporates like, and you're like, man, that just hits home. And you're like, man, no Sandy for 24. I had to go and tell my son that. I was like, Theo, Sandy, he's gonna be out the whole year. He's like, the whole year? I was like, yeah. He was like, he's still a stud though. It's like, yeah, he's still a stud. So Theo knows. He absolutely knows. On Eury Perez, this is the intriguing one for me heading into 24 anyway. You've mentioned him. I wonder how he's managed, because clearly one of the biggest storylines of 23 in general was like, A, Eury getting called up, B, his performance, how they managed it in the mid part of the year, then how he came back, rejuvenated the club, and then was shut down at the back end when they also needed him. Like, at the time, everything around 23 was just like, there was no real playbook, and the Marlins didn't quite know what to do. Into 24, what do you think that playbook actually looks like for Eury Perez?
There can't, in my opinion, there can't be a shutdown period this year, in 2024. You got to let him go and see what he can do and see that he can hold up, right? Because at this point, he threw a lot of innings this year, a lot more than I know the Marlins intended for him to pitch, and a lot of that's because Sandy went down. But I fully expect him to be with the club the whole season. Maybe towards the tail end, they start saying, okay, we're going to pull you in the fourth. If anything, but I say at this point I think he'll be 20 next season. So I say you kind of have to let him go, let him prove that he can hang with the club and see what he's got. You stretched him out this year, and we're gonna need him next year. If we're gonna make another push, we got to have Eury the whole season.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with you on that. I think it is going to be, again, an intriguing situation. Clearly, he's very young, but this year, the body of work was impressive. And we look at what happened with Abrax or Luzardo. They both took that step upwards in terms of innings covered, and so they should feel confident about that. To your point, I think there will be an element of managing the innings in game. It's going to be 4 today, whatever it might be, but not this whole send him down, shut him down, and not be available if they do make it, because, that I think that was just an outlier. It has to be an outlier. They can't be continuing down that path. So,
no,
and they need him fundamentally. To your point, like they're going to need Eury Perez to be there most of the year. So, Eury Perez, what do you think on the likelihood, looking ahead to next year, the likelihood that he's an all-star next year?
Ooh, I think it's possible. I'd like to see him this spring add another pitch. I think that will help him a lot, especially because he gives up a lot of home runs. Fortunately, they're 1-run homers, so it doesn't really hurt you too much. But I'd like to see him add another pitch, and I think absolutely, if Eury had pitched the whole first half, he would have been an all-star this year, I think. So definitely going to happen.
I'm with you. It'd be a great story as well. Yeah, me too. Like I thought, he blew me away. To be honest with you, there was a start against the Dodgers, I think in particular. I was just like, wow. Baseball's it's quite a passive watch, right? Where sometimes you're not watching every pitch, every pitch really closely. I remember that start against the Dodgers. I was literally just fully locked in, watching every single pitch, just like, this is incredible, mate.
The last pitcher I remember feeling like this with was Jose. Sandy's been great. Like, I enjoy watching Sandy pitch, but I remember Jose's the only one that I went out and actually was able to see his debut, and same with Eury. Like, I dropped everything and met Spaz and Cali at the ballpark, and we saw his debut. We were like, we gotta go, and so it was great. And you're right, like, he's just, the way he throws the ball is special, and I'm so glad that he's a Marlin. I love it.
No doubt. Listen, the Marlins aren't famed for aggressive extensions, but I think what we have seen in Major League Baseball, just more generally, is a new approach to generational talents. And I think I'm going to put, I don't think I am. I know I'm putting Eury Perez into that bracket of generational talents. I do wonder, do the Marlins look to do something with Eury Perez, just considering his age at this point and, what the upside looks like? Is it worth the risk for them? I think it might be. I don't know if they will go down that path, but they've got to be considering it. Do you think, right?
Oh yeah, maybe not this year, but definitely if he goes the full season next year, I think the front office has that conversation and maybe starts feeling out his agent, like what's it going to take to lock you down? Because there's no way they let him get away.
No,
I don't see that.
You start the conversation and you go, how does 10 years, 50 million sound? And just, hope.
Hope. See what happens. Just throw a number out there. He'll take it.
Yeah, just see. Someone may go, do you know what? 50 million sounds amazing. Maybe. I don't know. I think a smart agent may have something to say about that. But we have seen it though, right? And I was looking, the Diamondbacks are obviously performing well this postseason. Corbin Carroll, like a big part of that. I'm pretty sure that the Diamondbacks locked him up after like 35 games or something. They were like, man, Carroll's, we know he's a stud. We're just going to lock him up now because, and really, I think we've seen enough with Eury Perez to be confident enough that there's a stud there. So we'll see.
Yeah. If they want to lock him up now, I'm all for it. But we'll see.
Talk to me about Jazz Chisholm Jr. He's another guy. I mean, for those watching here, right? They're looking at the rundown and going, right, okay, we spent a ton of time talking about Eury Perez. He's not on the rundown. We're going to talk about Jazz Chisholm Jr. He's not on the rundown. Pete, where are you going? This is how Locked On Marlins rolls. Sometimes we end up down a path I didn't expect because, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Jazz Chisholm Jr., mate, he is one of the most polarizing players in many ways. Extension-wise, I think he is a very interesting topic area because, he's into arbitration now. So it feels like the Marlins are on the clock a touch. It's been riddled with injuries, but where do you think the Marlins' heads are at with Jazz at this point in terms of longer-term commitment?
So I don't think it's a good look for them to let one of the faces of Major League Baseball walk. I don't know that there's a long-term extension coming this offseason. I think this year was probably his best year with us, right? I think he played through the toe injury for the majority of the season. Like he was as healthy as he could be. I can't really blame that toe injury on him too much because that was that fence. But I think you have to start thinking about locking him up because again, like he's a face of the sport in general. Like his personality, he's the crowd, for the most part, I think Marlins fans love the guy. There's a very loud contingent that does not. And it's it is what it is. But I think the Marlins, I don't think they can afford to let him just walk. And I don't know that his body of performance right now would mean an extension would be very expensive for us. So I think if you can lock him up, you should, because a couple of tweaks and he's putting up big numbers, he had a good season. And I think you got to try and bring him back and keep him here long term.
I'm with you. Great points, well made. This is why I bring on the stud guests to deliver these points of view. And I'm completely with you. I think that's the really tricky thing with Jazz, because in his head, there is a $300 million contract that could be there. Yeah. But the level of production and the fact that it's with the Marlins, like we're not quite at that phase, right? So there's an element of like Jazz. It feels to me like he's happy to gamble himself at this point and like just roll the dice a touch. So I just feel like the trading conditions at this point aren't overly favorable for that situation. But to your point, work through the injury. For me, it was his best season. Took the center field like an absolute stud. We were trying to solve the center field riddle for multiple years. Jazz just went out there and said, "I've got it," and he did. He absolutely did. And new batting stance, Jazz, like it did feel like some minor adjustments, production increased. Like I'm genuine. I mean, he's had the toe surgery now, a couple of months off his feet, fine. Come back for spring. I'm genuinely excited for 2024 for Jazz Chisholm Jr. to be honest, but I'm always excited about Jazz.
Me too. I love that guy.
Yeah, me exactly. All right, final out of the day, and then we'll kind of get back on script here. I did want to talk about shortstop options that may impact Jazz actually, so we'll do that. But before we do that, let you know about our good friends over at Jase Medical. Yes, sir. And guys, well, firstly, let me try and open the script up. Here we go. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared, or underprepared either. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code, like how they wrote that one, my code locked on at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE for Jase, jasemedical.com. Okay, guys, final segment here on Wednesday, the 11th of October. Myself, Peter Pratt, and Branton Griffin digging into this one. We've gone all over the show, unscripted, unplanned, but it's been a fun one. We are going to get back slightly to the script and talk about shortstop options. Does kind of segue from Jazz. One of the biggest holes, probably the biggest hole in some ways, as we look ahead, is potentially shortstop. There's quite a few ways the Marlins could go on this one. Where's your head at with this one? Because I'm just going to throw a couple out there. Jazz Chisholm could transition back to the middle infield, potentially. Could. Luis Arias could slide over. I think that's unlikely. Xavier Edwards could take the step up defensively. You've got some internal options. You've then also got a bit of Kim Ang extravaganza, if she's still here. We assume she will be. You got a bit of Kim Ang special sauce making a trade for a controllable guy that we don't expect. There could be a free agent or two. Who knows? You've got Garrett Hampson. You've got John Birdie. Tons of different ways to skin it here. Shortstop, huge position. Not a huge free agent class like we've seen for the last couple of years. How are they going to solve this riddle, do you think, in this offseason, Branton?
Ooh, I don't know. As long as Joey Bats isn't involved, get Wendell out of here. That's all I need. But I think they can solve it a couple different ways. I think, Xavier Edwards has proven he should be on this roster at some point, whether that's kind of like a utility guy or something like that. I think he deserves a shot at it in the spring. But, and for those of you who watch Battered Marlins, I've been railing since like week 1 of the season for Tim Anderson. I think the White Sox are going to be sellers this offseason.
Agreed.
They're clearly going into full rebuild and looking for assets. And I think that's a guy we should probably keep an eye on because it feels like somebody we could probably get for pretty cheap. As far as assets going the other way, and would be instantaneously a major upgrade for us. But I can also see a route where we go internal with shortstop and Kim focuses on other areas, maybe a catcher or outfield, if she feels like Xavier's ready for that step up or any of the other guys in the minors are ready. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because we were kind of talking beforehand. We're going to throw out 40 names and hopefully one of them's right, but probably it'll be that 41st name we didn't mention.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of this show, right? Like we've got long enough in this offseason to just throw out every name there is. And then I'll clip it and go, had it first, baby. You knew it. For sure. I love the Tim Anderson name though, by the way. Like, the name. And the other thing too, we shouldn't forget here is like those conversations, the trade discussions happened with Jake Berger, obviously. So, there's a degree of familiarity, let's say. Kind of went that way a little bit with the Orioles for a while. Do you remember like the Marlins and Orioles just started to kind of like buddy up and do business pretty frequently? And, the White Sox looking to sell off, the Marlins looking to keep their window open. I do wonder how this Sandy situation does impact their thinking, though. I think that's the one thing I'd say is like you lose your ace for 24. Are you a touch more cautious what is in effect the rental dude of Tim Anderson? Or do you think, man, we've got to buy to offset Sandy? I think that whole situation and equation really is interesting, I think, for the Marlins this offseason.
Oh, yeah. Because to your point, like that's a big hole you're trying to fill in the rotation, and you have to weigh, like, can I get away with Birdie and Xavier at short and maybe go out and get an arm that's available? Who knows? But it's going to be a wild ride, and we're here for it.
We're here for it. Absolutely. The content creators are absolutely here for this one, no doubt.
Yeah.
Final one that we'll get out of here, mate. I mean, listen, the Marlins, they gave us a wild ride in 23. I thought it was a stunning season. They made the postseason. They got bounced by the Phils. The Phils are good. You know, it's a tough environment. You know, as a fan of the club, and follows them closely, just as closely as me, I guess. You know, just how would you look back on 23 overall? A positive year, good year, best year, and you know, how are you feeling now?
I'm positive. I'm 100% positive. I think the season was a success, right? Like, we went out there and, you know, a lot of us at the beginning of the season, for some reason, just felt like we were going to make the playoffs. And here we are at the end of the season. We did it. And maybe we didn't make as much noise as we wanted to in the playoffs, and wanted to keep that streak of winning a World Series after we sneak in as a wild card alive. But, you know, ultimately a success. I think with all the adversity the team's gone through, like, we found a lot of answers, right? We have our manager. Skip's not going anywhere. We've got Brax, Luzardo, are guys who were maybe like, you know, Brax was the long reliever to start the season, and now he's definitely a top 3 in the rotation guy for next season. And, you know, we answered a lot of questions. A lot of guys stepped up, and, you know, we have the batting champ on our team too. You know, with the rise, and it just, what a fun ride. We got our first cycle in team history. Like, that was exciting in itself, and a lot of great memories this year, like Eury's debut, like we talked about. And overall, you know, 10 out of 10 season. I'm happy with everything that happened, regardless of how it ended. It was just fantastic.
Me too, mate. Me too. I think my overarching, like, if I probably look, if there's a way to, you know, create those maps of words, like if you piece together all your tweets from the year, and then like the bigger words are the ones used more frequently, right? That kind of mapping of words. Someone will know the name of that somewhere. Anyway, I think if someone did that for my tweets, you'd have right in the middle in bold would say, "I feel alive." That's, I think, would like just encapsulate the 2023 Marlins and how I felt about this season. It just made me feel alive, mate. It was, I think, a brilliant season. The one regret, and I said this on the Tobin and Leroy show like the day after it happened, and I haven't actually, I don't think, said it on this show, but the one regret, I think, overall is the fact that we didn't get a postseason game in Miami. I think that's the one element that is disappointing. It would have been amazing. All of the jabs, all of the jibes we always see about the Marlins fan base and attendances, I know if they'd have got a postseason game, it would have been jam-packed, and it would have been an insane atmosphere, mate. I mean, you go there a lot more regularly than me. You know, that has to hurt, though, right? But it would have been a sight to behold, I think.
That was the only time I've ever seen money go back into my bank account, and I was disappointed. Was when they refunded that ticket. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, for those, I'm with you on that. So that's the only regret. I did actually have tickets to that those games, so same as you, similar feeling. Me and Sean Barrett both had tickets, so we were all in. But unfortunately, luckily the flights weren't booked, so we didn't because they weren't refundable. So we had to work out and pull the trigger late. But either way, that's going to wrap us up for today, Brandon. That's been awesome, an awesome debut. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me on Locked On.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Make sure you're back this offseason, mate. There's going to be a lot that's going on for sure. Make sure you follow the guys as well on the Battered Marlins pod as well. That is a lot of fun. A lot of wine consumed as well, or just general alcoholic spirits.
Alcohol in general.
Absolutely. Spaz is the main protagonist on that one, I would say. But I think there's a few sneaky boozers in there too, which is, I think, why we all get along so well. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. That's been Wednesday, the 11th of October for Locked On Marlins, and myself, Peter Pratt, and Branton Griffin. I'll be back tomorrow for Thursday. Not sure on the agenda yet, but frankly, if I tell you, it is subject to change anyway. But we'll look forward to seeing you Thursday. See you then.